Welcome everybody. I'm going to go ahead and get started. So welcome to the Neuromorphics Lab. I don't know if you've heard, but we had a power outage about an hour ago, and we got everything up and running. So hopefully this will be a fun visit. We're just going to do a short presentation here, and then we're going to go upstairs for some demos. There's some handouts going around. There's 3 items there. The first item is a map, which is we'll talk about at the end of the presentation for the demos. Then we have a description of the demos in the lab and another company that's here at Activa. And then the third item is an article that was written about our lab that was published in the BU Arts and Sciences magazine in the fall, so just to give you some more reading. So I'm going to just dive right in. What I'm going to show you first is actually a short video clip. We're working with a producer to prepare a documentary about some of the work we do, so we thought it would be a nice way to sort of set the tone. Excited. I'm going to run through a quick presentation to give you an overview of the work that we do. So this here is our mass card. This shows all the different agencies or companies that are involved with some of the work that we do in the lab, and it keeps getting fuller, so we're excited about that as we're building partnerships. So in the Neuromorphics Lab, we're facing a grand challenge. And the grand challenge is, how do we take what we know about biological intelligence or brain behavior and put that to a robot? Now, why do we want to do that? Well, we have all these cool robots that are being built. So this big dog, Boston Dynamics, hand grippers, and other items. But these things aren't really intelligent. We can't just deploy them in an environment and hope that they can sort of figure things out. We have to hard code them to do different functions or activities. And in fact, the current approach, or the main approach that people use in building these robots, is to use panels of experts to hard code different perception action combinations. So you have this huge combinatorial explosion of having to build robots that perform a specific function, and this just doesn't scale because you can't take a robot that learns how to vacuum and then put it out in the water and say, okay, figure out how to mow the lawn, give it the right equipment. It doesn't scale that way. So what we want to do is here we study and emulate biological intelligence. So we can see how to apply these things to robots and other agents. And through the presentation, I'll be talking a lot about robots, but I will motivate the question if a robot can be the only agent that is actually making use of intelligence. So, can your mobile phone also be such an agent? Can we think of virtual agents? So, just something to think about. So, essentially, what we're doing here is we're building computational models of brain function and looking at new computing devices so that we can see how we can port this type of work into these types of agents. So one of the reasons why this is interesting is we can look at sort of the market of personal robotics, which is estimated at around $15 billion. Looks like it's going to eventually, I'm not sure if it has hit the range of the 2010 digital music market, but we can think about like how could a robot be sort of helpful in a home? We can have a laundry, robot that can fold laundry, it can do surveillance, it can clean, all these other activities within a home. And in fact, if we look at some of the projections of robotics, we can see that these sort of personal and service robots are the ones that are projected to really take off over the next 15 years. But in order to do this sort of scalability, it has to be able to learn new functions as it interacts with humans. So how do we get from what we have today, which is all these different types of robots, to something that we can integrate into our lives, into society? So within the Neuromorphics Lab, we have what we call the Trinity, which is essentially 3 modes of research that we think are integral to achieving this goal of fully autonomous agents. And the first is mind, and here we're looking at building biologically inspired computational models for the software of learning and intelligence. The second area is brain. We want to develop small, low power, and efficient computing hardware. Can't put this stuff in a robot if it's a giant supercomputer. And the third is the body. We need to have inexpensive mobile or robotic platforms that have rich sensory and motor connections so that we can really make these things effective in an environment. So this is what we're working on now. In the area of mind, basically what we're doing here is we look at various disciplines of study, including experimental neuroscience, psychology, mathematical modeling, and so forth. And we're working to develop a whole brain system, which we call Moneta, that integrates various types of networks that we find in our brain already. So rather than building a speech recognition system, we're building a whole brain that has a component of it that is to recognize speech, has a component to recognize objects. But these things all work together within the model we're developing because we know that's how we work as humans. You know, we don't just turn on our speech recognition system when we want to listen to somebody. So that's sort of the motivation for our approach. So within that today, you're going to see two demos that are going to illustrate some of the work we've done in this area. So Moneta stands for Modular Neural Exploring Traveling Agent. That's spelled out in your handout if you're interested later. One of the projects that we are working on with Moneta is autonomous exploration and GPS-less navigation of planetary environments. This is work with NASA in the form of an STTR. And this, what I'm showing you over here, is sort of the first proof of concept of what we've built. The first thing we wanted to do is replicate rodent behavior. So what you see here is an actual rat performing a task called the Morris water maze, where you put the rat into this pool of water, and it has to find a submerged platform. And it's really motivated to do this because rats don't like to be wet. So on the first trial, it sort of explores the environment, it wants to get out, and it's a little bit random. But by the 8th trial, it goes from any place that you drop it in the pool directly to the platform. So that's what we did with the first pass of the virtual robot. On the first try, it was randomly exploring the environment. By the 4th try, it was able to get itself onto the platform safely. We also have a second demo in this category, and this is looking more at visual learning. This is work we're doing with Hewlett-Packard Labs and also with the Air Force Research Laboratory. And here we're going to show you autonomous perception. So learning to actively make sense of your visual world with limited supervision and with sensors with variable resolution. So we're going to describe to you how the brain uses what and where pathways. So where pathways to find hotspots of attention in the visual world, and what, so how do we actually recognize those objects? So this brings us to the second discipline that we're interested in, which is the brain, or the hardware. So the problem that we're facing today is that the clock speed of individual transistors is leveling off. So this means Moore's law is about to explode. We're having high counts of transistors, the clock speed is slowing. And we also have these problems with the bundling architecture, specifically a lot of bottlenecks and power losses, because the area in the computer which does the processing is physically separated from the area which does the data storage and memory access. So we recognize this as a big problem in computing, and we're working with people like Adaptivo, who you'll meet today, and Hewlett-Packard to sort of address this. Now, why are they interested in talking to us? Well, this is why. Because the computers physically separate these functions, that's a problem. So can we look to biology and figure out another way to do this? Well, we can. Our brains don't do that. We have synapses in our brain. And at the synapse, we merge computation and data storage. And this is a highly efficient way to do processing. So within the area of hardware, we're going to show you two demos today as well. The first demo is looking at an algorithm that we've been developing in the lab that uses optic flow to avoid obstacles in a navigation setting. So these videos here, just stop, we're essentially showing you how optic flow is computed in the environment. You'll learn more about that upstairs. And we're taking this algorithm, trying to see if we can port it into custom hardware. This is also something we're doing with NASA, and they're interested in this for collision avoidance in aerial vehicles, so both manned and unmanned. This is actually a big problem. There's a lot of near misses with airplanes, so developing these kinds of systems are really important. And then Adaptivo today is going to show you their low-power massively parallel chips that they have been developing and hoping to get to 64,000 cores. Am I right on that number? Yes. Which sounds pretty impressive, right? And much power. It's a really fantastic problem to have, actually. So the third thing that I talked about was body. So we've got all these robots. We work with iRobots, so they're developing this new system here. We also use a lot of virtual agents, which you'll see upstairs. And then also, of course, we're going to really make a question of what about mobile devices or other types of agents that we can think about that need intelligence to perform tasks. So you'll see one last demo of stairs in the field of assistive robotics. So if we have a person here that's disabled, and they have maybe in their house that's set up with a whole bunch of technologies or robots, how can they control those robots effectively? And particularly if they have maybe motor control issues or speech problems, and that's not really the best way to control a robot. So one of the projects we're working on is actually harnessing brainwaves using imaging technology to power a robot, and then also having the robot equipped with some degree of autonomy to fully carry out the functioning of what it needs to do. This is a demo upstairs. I'll also say this allows the brains to do all the heavy lifting. Cool thing about this demo is we can keep our fingers crossed, but hopefully few of you will be able to control a robot with your brainwaves, so be prepared for that. So then I'll just like to close the overview with talking about cell phones and mobile devices, how these are seen as ways to connect people across all over the globe and bring people together. But what if these devices aren't just cell phones? What if they're mini brains, mini agents? How can we look at the connectivity of people across the world, and what kind of effect could this have? So just something to think about. Now, I'm going to close there, and we are going to go see